ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining. For those who are new, my name is Varsha Shinde and I welcome you all to this Bhagavad Gita study group. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alright, let's do a quick recap. In chapter 1, we studied 4 distinct sections. The first one was preparations for war. Duryodhan gives us a list of warriors on both the sides, on the side of the Kauravas and on the side of the Pandavas. The second section shows us Krishna as Bhaktavatsal. Krishna is being a simple Sarthi for his dear friend Arjun. The third section spoke about the definite signs of victory for the Pandavas. Krishna was personally present on their side. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is always present wherever Krishna is. Then the venue, Kurukshetra, is Dharmakshetra, a holy place, and so it is expected to be more favorable for the Dharmi Pandavas. Then of course Hanumanji is on Arjun's flag. The flag is Kapidhvajaha. And then there are so many transcendental conch shells of Krishna, of Arjun and others, right? We spoke about Krishna's conch shell being Panchajanya and Arjun's conch shell being Devadatta, right? Then of course we saw Agni Dev's chariot, right? The chariot that Arjun and Krishna are standing on. That is a gift that Agni Dev has given to Arjun, and this chariot is capable of conquering all 4 directions. So the conch shells of the Pandavas have shattered the Kauravas' hearts. So Arjun was all raring to go, very, very sure of victory. But one last time he wanted to check out his opponents. And so he requested his dear friend and Sarthi Krishna to take the chariot in front of the enemy. And what did Krishna do? Krishna took the chariot right in front of Bhishma Pitama, Dronacharya and Kripacharya. And Arjun looks at all of them and goes completely weak in the knees. He says ki nahi, these are not my enemies, these are the people that I love. I absolutely will not fight these people. So we see that in spite of having everything favorable, in spite of having Krishna and Lakshmi and Hanumanji and Dharma on his side, we saw Arjun buckle down. Arjun is in a dilemma. And then he gives us arguments about why he should not fight. He starts off by saying, these are my dear friends and relatives, Swajana. So he's feeling a lot of compassion for them. When Krishna does not heed, he says, Krishna, what is the point of enjoyment? What is the point of victory if everybody that I love is going to be dead? So, loss of enjoyment. Krishna abhi bhi nahi sunte hain. So he says, all right, what about sinful reactions? Mujhe paap nahi chahiye, and you know कि when we kill somebody, we get sin. I don't want that. Right? Krishna is still smiling. Then Arjun says, all right, have you thought about what is going to happen to family values, family traditions? Right? They're all going to be destroyed. Irreligion will increase, women will become polluted, and there will be all kinds of Varna Sankara. Unwanted children will be produced, no Pindadan will happen, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities will be destroyed. So Krishna, I will not fight. Right? So that is where the first chapter ends. Now here in chapter 2, the philosophy of the Gita begins. It is a very, very crucial chapter. It is called Sankhya Yoga, an analytical study of the Bhagavad Gita. It is also popularly known as a summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Okay, it's a really long and detailed chapter with a whole lot of concepts in it. So let's begin. Atha dvitiyodhyayah Sanjaya uvacha tam tatha kripayavishtam Ashrupurnakulekshanam Vishidantam midam vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Alright, the translation. Sanjay said, seeing Arjun full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan, Krishna, spoke the following words. Now please remember, Sanjay is giving a live commentary of everything that is happening on the battlefield to the blind Dhritarashtra. Both of them, Sanjay and Dhritarashtra, are sitting in the palace in Hastinapur. The war is happening at Kurukshetra. And Sanjay is relaying everything that is happening at Kurukshetra in that palace in Hastinapur. And so Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, O king, Arjun is now full of sorrow, full of lamentation, right? This sadness, this misery has overtaken his mind. He is absolutely dejected. He's given up his Gandiv, right? His bow and his arrows, and he's sitting on the floor of the chariot and he's refusing to fight, right? What Arjun has said is, my dear Krishna, I cannot fight. This is the stage of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjun was not a coward. He's one of the greatest heroes. But out of compassion, he's become all sorrowful. But Krishna here does not feel bad for Arjun at all. He's not saying, oh, never mind, you don't feel like fighting, no problem, right? Let's go back home, relax, no problem. No, Krishna is going to use this stage to give Arjun and us some very, very important lessons, right? And so Krishna says, please repeat after me. This is verse number 2 of the second chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anaryajushtam Aswargyam Akirti Karamarjuna. Okay, the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets but to infamy. The beginning of this verse is Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, indicating that the person speaking is Bhagavan. And this Bhagavan is a person, right? So the person standing in front of Arjun is Shri Bhagavan. I personally love this verse because it introduces us to the word Bhagavan. Okay, so what's the meaning of the word Dhanavan? Correct, one who has a lot of dhan. Gunavan, one who has a lot of gun, unlimited good virtues. Balavan, somebody who has a lot of strength. So Bhagavan is somebody who has unlimited bhaga. Okay, Bhagavan is explained by Parashar Muni, the father of Vyasdev, in the Vishnu Puran, and it says, one who possesses all bhaga. Bhaga means Aishwarya, opulence. All kinds of opulence can be categorized into 6: riches, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and detachment. Okay, these are 6 riches, 6 opulences that we all might have a tiny fraction of. Okay, but Bhagavan has them in full. Bhagavan has complete riches, that is wealth. He has absolute strength. He has absolute fame. He is the most beautiful. He has complete knowledge. And in spite of all of this, he is completely detached. Okay, let's quickly go through this. He has all wealth. Now, if we look at the first verse of the Ishopanishad, it says, Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Everything, animate or inanimate, that exists within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. He is the CEO of all the universes, right? So obviously the wealthiest, the one who has complete wealth, is Bhagavan. Then all strength. We all know when he was only about 5 years old, he lifted Govardhan, right? When he was a tiny little boy, he killed so many demons, Aghasur, Bakasur, Putana, Kams, right? So all strength. Then all fame. Everyone, everywhere knows God. It's a different thing. Some may believe and some may not believe. That's different. But do I know about God? Yes, I do. So God, Bhagavan, is very famous. All beauty. Oh, I love this. Brahma Samhita has such amazing verses describing the beauty of this person that we call Bhagavan. Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayatакsham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Right? So, Brahma Samhita, this verse says, I worship Govinda, who is melodiously playing on his Venu. Right? His eyes are like lotus petals. He has a peacock feather on his head. His complexion is that of blue clouds. And he is charming millions of cupids. Just imagine, Cupid attracts everyone, and here Krishna is known as one who attracts Cupid. Krishna is Shama Sundaram, Nava Yauvanam cha, right? So all beauty, the epitome of beauty is Sri Krishna. Then all knowledge, the Vedas, essentially complete knowledge. Vedas are given to Brahma by Krishna. Tene Brahma Rudaya Adi Kavaye. This is what the Bhagavad says. Bhagavad says that Krishna has given all the Vedas into the heart of Brahma. As we go ahead in the 15th chapter, we'll read Vedescha Sarver Ahameva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Veda Vedeva Chaham. Right? It says, by all the Vedas, I alone am to be known. I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. Right? So all absolute knowledge comes from Krishna. And in spite of all of this, he has all renunciation. He has created every little aspect of all the universes, and yet he is completely detached. We have our own free will to do whatever we want. There is absolutely no zabardasti. And that is why he is called Bhagavan. Okay? Alright. Now with that knowledge, we'll go back to the verse. Arjuna is feeling so much compassion and he does not want to fight the war. Krishna takes this opportunity to enlighten Arjuna. So here he is going to start his dialogue, the Bhagavad Gita, explaining all knowledge to Arjuna. Right? He starts by scolding Arjuna. Why have these doubts overcome you? They don't befit a cultured person like you. Right? So he's scolding Arjuna. He's reminding him of the consequences of his actions. He says, Arjuna, this is completely disgraceful behavior. This will not lead you to heavens. It will give you infamy in this world. If you run away from the battlefield like this, imagine what people are going to say. The good name that you've earned over all these years, that good name is going to be tarnished. So Krishna scolds Arjuna for being weak and reminds him of the consequences. If you run away from your duty, you will not get the heavens. People will not think that you went out of compassion. No, they will think you're a darpok, that you chickened out seeing the size of the Kaurav army. They're going to say Arjuna is a coward. And like that, you're going to lose all the fame that you've earned over the years. Okay? Krishna continues. Let's look at verse 3. Please repeat after me. Klaibyam masmagamah partha नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठः परन्तप. Alright, translation. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Krishna is a very skillful teacher. In the previous verse, he has yelled at Arjun. He's literally scolded Arjun, reprimanded him. Now he's encouraging him. Come on, you are Partha, son of that great Pritha. Pritha is another name for Kunti, right? So Krishna reminds Arjun of who his mother is. You are the son of that great lady Kunti. She worshipped Indra, the god of gods, and with his blessings, you Arjun, you were born. So Arjun, you have extraordinary might. You have extraordinary strength. You are like Indra. Krishna is reminding him of this and encouraging him कि भाई अपने हृदय दौर्बल्य, right, the weakness of heart, don't give in to that. Don't forget what great lineage you come from. You have such illustrious parentage, right? Then he calls Arjun Parantapa, and a conqueror of enemies. He reminds Arjun, Arjun, you are a Kshatriya. You are a warrior. You have defeated, you've destroyed mighty kings in the world. You are the greatest archer. लोग तुम्हारा नाम सुन के डर के मारे भाग जाते हैं, right? You are the greatest archer in the world. And Arjun, you knew all along now who you're going to fight with. You've had enough time to decide what is right and what is wrong. Now the decision to fight has been made. We're already on the battlefield. Your side is depending on you to lead them to victory. So Arjun, this is not the time for you to put down your weapons. If you now leave the battlefield, you will be committing a dishonorable act. So Krishna says, this attitude, Arjun, does not suit your personality. This is not magnanimity. This is not generosity. This is not noble. No, this is simply weakness of heart. Right? Now when Krishna shouts at Arjun like this, Arjun gives his arguments. Right? So in the next 3 verses, we're going to see Arjun explain why he does not want to fight. Again, verse number 4. Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmam aham sankhe द्रोणं च मधुसूदना इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदना. Alright, translation. Arjun said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? So Arjun is saying, Krishna, how can I possibly point my arrows at Bhishma, at Dronacharya? These are my dearest people. Everything that I am today, I am because of them. They have raised me. They have nourished me. They have given me all the love in the world. So these 2 people, Bhishma and Dronacharya, they deserve nothing but my respect and my worship. So even if they attack us, I cannot counterattack them. Right? We're always taught that we should not even argue verbally with our superiors. Hai na? Then how is it possible for me to shoot arrows at them? Would you, Krishna, would you ever attack your own grandfather Ugrasen? Would you attack your teacher Sandipani Muni? No, na? You are just telling me to kill my elders, whereas you, what have you done? You're Arisudana. You have only killed demons. You have never killed your near and dear ones, right? You will never understand the pain that I'm going through. And then Arjun continues. Please repeat beautiful verses coming up. Verse number 5. Gurun hatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshamapi haloke hatvartha kamastu guru nihaiva भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिर प्रदिग्धान् It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So Arjun is continuing with his arguments. कि गुरु की हत्या करके, by killing my gurus, do you ever think that my conscience is going to let me enjoy all the royal benefits? Arjun has been Bhishma's favorite grandchild. He has been Dronacharya's favorite student. Right? He has a blood relationship with Bhishmacharya and Dronacharya is his guru. Both are worshipable. So Arjun is in Dharma Sankat. He is saying that they are my superiors. So it's okay. If they want the kingdom, let them keep it. If they want to fight, very, very good. But I am not going to raise weapons against them. Alright? Now verse number 6. न चैतद्विद्म कतरन्नो गरीयो यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामस् तेव स्थिता प्रमुखे धातराष्ट्राः. Translation: Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet, they are now standing before us on the battlefield. Right? Now, please remember, begging is unthinkable for a Kshatriya. But Arjuna is saying, doesn't matter. Even begging is better than killing my great Bhishma Pitama and my great Dronacharya. Also, Krishna, we don't know now what the outcome of the war is going to be. They could win or we could win. In war, only one side is going to emerge victorious now. So, that's it. I don't know what to do. I don't want to fight at all. Let them win the war. I'm not going to pick up my weapons. Right? And at that point, Arjuna is completely confused about what to do. And then he speaks the most beautiful verse. A verse that we should understand word for word, a verse that we must try to learn by heart. Okay? Chapter 2, verse number 7, a must learn for everybody. Please repeat. Karpanya doshopahatas svabhavah pritchami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yat shreyasyanishchitam bruhi tanme Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Translation: Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So this is a great moment in the Bhagavad Gita. For the first time, Arjun, who is Krishna's friend, Krishna's cousin, is requesting Krishna with great humility, ki Krishna, please be my guru. So I want all of you to drop whatever else you're doing and pay complete attention. Karpanya dosho uppahatta svabhavaha. So Karpanya dosh, miserly weakness, has made me forget my normal svabhav. So Krishna, you know now what my normal svabhav is like. I am a kshatriya. I am brave. I am fearless. I am a warrior. Hai na? But for some reason, right now, this natural, fearless svabhav of mine has been kidnapped. Uppahatta. And I am behaving like a kripana. Please understand the word kripan. Kripan is opposite of Brahman. Brahman is a very, very wise person. One who always knows what to do and what not to do. A Brahman always knows what is dharma, what is adharma. Right? He's very, very rich in knowledge and he always applies his knowledge. But a kripan, a miser, he has all the knowledge but he cannot apply it. So here Arjun suddenly realizes that all the excuses that he's been giving so far to not fight the war, they're all such baseless arguments. He realizes कि यार मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'm just getting emotional and I'm all confused and I'm not acting intelligently. And so at that point, he turns to his closest friend and his wisest mentor, the only one in the world that he could completely trust. And he places his problem in front of that great Lord Krishna. Karpanya dosho upahata svabhavaha. Since I am not behaving as per my normal svabhav, prichhami tvam. I am asking you, dharma. What is my dharma in this particular situation? Why? Sammudha chetaha. My own chetana, my own intelligence is not helping me. So Krishna, you please help me. Right? Yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitanme. Please tell me most definitely what is best for me. Shishyasteham. I am now your student. Shadhimam tvam prapannam. I now wish to very humbly surrender unto you. I wish to become your shishya, your student. Right? And now onwards I will do whatever it is that you tell me to do. Arjun is pleading Krishna, Ki Krishna, Karpanya dosh has overpowered me. Right? I'm behaving like a coward. That is not normally me. So please Krishna, become my guru and instruct me. Tell me what is the most auspicious choice right now. Right? In a situation where a student surrenders, it becomes the guru's responsibility to guide his disciple. So now, after this verse, it becomes Krishna's responsibility to guide Arjun and all of us on the right path. Right? Very early in the study of the Bhagavad Gita, I heard a very wise man say that Bhagavad Gita and the spiritual master, both, are like the control tower of an airplane. Right? We all know what a control tower does. It keeps giving us feedback. It helps us navigate. It keeps telling the pilot if you're on the right course or if you're going off course. Similarly, we have complete independence to fly the airplane of our life. But while we are busy flying the airplane of our life, we must absolutely always be in touch with the control room. Hai ki nahi? Why? Because that control room is always going to validate, optimize, and navigate. Right? Validate. It is going to tell us if we are on the right path or no. Once it tells us yes, you're on the right path, then it optimizes. It tells us which is the best, the easiest, the most ideal path for us. And once it tells us which is the most ideal path, it even navigates. It tells us what to do, when to do, how to do. Right? So this material world, troubles automatically are appearing all the time. We know it. Right? It's like a forest fire. Nobody really consciously starts a forest fire, but somehow a forest fire blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, in our lives, we don't go looking for trouble. None of us want trouble, but troubles just appear. No one wants a fire, and yet it takes place, right? And when that happens, we become all confused. Vedic wisdom therefore advises us to approach a guru to solve the confusions of life and understand the science of self-realization. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human being. If we are not going to look at this life as human beings, then we will simply be living like cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. We don't want to be Dvipada Pashu, right? Krupana, someone who has the greatest fortune but keeps it locked, does not use it for his own benefit or for others. Now, most people, right, who have a human birth, we all have this greatest asset, which is this human life. And so what do we need to do? Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Athato means now that I've got a human birth, what do I need to do? Brahma Jigyasa. Let me inquire about the absolute truth. in the human form of life, we should ask ourselves several questions. We should be intelligent enough to ask, who am I? Why have I come into this world? What is my duty? Who is the supreme controller? Right? There are so many questions, and the person who's actually intelligent should inquire about the supreme source of everything. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. If you're not going to do Brahma Jigyasa, if you're not going to go in search of self-realization, then we are nothing but animals, sophisticated animals. Right? There's this beautiful verse in Sanskrit. It says, Ahar, Nidra, Bhay, Maithunya. Right? 4 things. Ahar is eating, Nidra is sleeping, Bhaya, getting scared and so defending oneself, and Maithunya, mating. These 4 things, Ahar, Nidra, Bhay, Maithunya, Samanametat Pashubhi Naranam. These 4 things are common between animals and human beings. Please understand, Ahar, Nidra, Bhay and Maithunya जानवर भी करते हैं और इंसान भी करते हैं. True? धर्मो हि तेषाम अधिको विशेषः. There is only one supreme difference between animals and human beings. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko visheshah. A human being is able to understand the concept of dharma. Dharma is the special quality of the human beings. Dharmena hinaha pashubhi samanaha. So if we don't follow dharma, then we're just similar to animals. Right? So keep this in mind. Ahar, Nidra, Bhay, Maithunya, Samanya etat Pashubhi Naranam. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho, dharmena hinaha Pashubhi samanaha. Right? If it is not for dharma, then I'm nothing but a 2-legged animal. Okay? Alright. So with that, let's understand. As human beings, what is our real problem? Real problem of our life is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Janma, birth. Mrityu, death. Jara, old age. Vyadhi, dis-ease. When my life is not easy, when it's full of dis-ease, when I'm not comfortable, right? So, non-human species are meant for sense enjoyment, but human birth is meant for self-realization. Please understand. If we utilize this human body only for sense enjoyment, then Prakriti is going to say, why did I give her a human birth? Let me give her something that is fit for sense enjoyment. Think of it, na? So there's this rich guy, right? And he gifts his friend a Mercedes, right? His friend is a farmer. So what does the farmer do? He takes this Merc and he takes it to the field to till the land instead of his tractor. Now, when the rich man sees this, what does he do? He takes back the Merc and he gives his friend a tractor. है ना? यही हमारे साथ होगा. If we are not going to use this human birth to understand Athato Brahma Jigyasa, then what is Prakriti going to do? It's going to give us a animal body in the next life. Right? We have to look at what has happened to Arjun. Arjun could understand that his duty to fight was waiting for him. Arjun understood that because of miserly weakness, because of compassion, because of bodily attachment, he is not able to do his duty. Right? So Arjun is realizing, oh my God, I have so much knowledge. I'm a prince. I have so much wealth, such a high position. And all of this is useless when it comes to solving the problems of life. And in that situation, the only person who can help me is a guru, a spiritual master. Please think of it in our lives, how important a guru is going to become. And so at that point, when Arjun knows ki bhai, kuch kaam mein nahi aayega, I need a guru. At that point, he offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop all kinds of friendly talks. Right? Now the talk is between a master and a disciple, so the conversation is going to be serious. Now, Krishna has become Arjun's spiritual master. Okay? I'll tell you a story of a little boy. Okay? We'll understand why a guru is very, very important. So, the story is about a 10-year-old boy who desperately wants to learn judo. Nothing wrong with that, right? A 10-year-old boy wants to learn judo. There's just one little problem. This kid, he was in an accident and he has lost his left arm. Okay? So this bacha, he does not have his left arm, left hand, right? He's lost it in an accident and he wants to learn judo. So what has happened? He's gone to various schools. Oh master, please teach me judo. Oh master, please teach me judo. But they all turn him away. They say, na 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 na. Single-handed bacche ke saath, how are we going to teach you judo? Not possible, please go away. Yeah, judo is an intense sport and it needs the candidate to be very, very fit. So understandable. But this boy, he was determined. Right? He's not sad. He's determined. He wants to learn judo. So his desire to learn was very, very strong, and so he continues to look for a guru, a sensei. Finally, he reaches the camp of an old Japanese judo master. The master saw him, he gave him a broom and he said, "Chalo, clean up the premises." Right? This boy does not question, takes the broom and starts cleaning the premises. Right? So this continued for a few days. Every day the boy has to wake up and his only job, clean the premises. Take this jhadu, clean up the premises. Take this jhadu, clean up the premises. Went on for a few days, went on for a few weeks. Right? The boy does not question. He keeps the premises spick and span. What spick and... Okay, very, very clean. Now, seeing his diligence, the coach finally calls him. And he says, you know what? I'm going to now start your lessons. And the coach teaches the boy one move. The boy eagerly learns it and he keeps practicing it till he becomes perfect. Right? The boy is doing very well. He's absolutely the best at that particular move. Right? Every single day, all the hours that he gets, he is practicing that one single move. He becomes such an expert and still he doesn't understand why after almost 3 months of training, the master has taught him only that one move. So one day he goes to the master, very, very humbly, very politely he says, "Guru, don't you think I should be learning more moves?" Right? So the sensei says, "Don't worry. This is the only move that you will ever need." Right? The boy doesn't understand, but he has full faith in his teacher. So he keeps training. Several months later, the sensei takes the boy to his first tournament. Okay? First match, the boy wins. Second match, the boy wins. He himself is so surprised. Now the third match, everyone is saying, "Oh, this is going to be difficult." Right? The boy puts out his best. And after some time, his opponent becomes impatient and he charges at the boy. This boy, he knows one move. He uses that one move. And to everyone's astonishment, the boy wins the match. The boy is amazed. Right? Now he's in the finals. This time, his opponent is bigger, stronger, more experienced. Now for a while, that boy is very nervous. Right? He's overmatched. He's concerned. Right? Even the referee calls and says, "Look, this boy might get hurt. Are you sure you want to go ahead?" And his teacher says, "Yes, please. I would like them to continue." So the match resumes. The opponent makes one critical mistake. He drops his guard. Instantly, the boy uses his move and pins his opponent. The boy wins the match and the tournament. He is the champion. The crowd goes crazy. There are celebrations everywhere, and all the way home, everyone is doing 3 cheers, 3 cheers, 3 cheers. On the way home, the boy and the guru, they go through every move, right, in each and every match. And then the boy gets the courage to ask his guru what really was on his mind. He says, "Sensei, tell me, how did I win this tournament when I know only one move?" The guru answers, he says, "Well, you won because of 2 reasons. One, you've mastered that one move, right? It is one of the most difficult throws in all of judo and you have mastered it. And second, the only known defense for that move is for your opponent to grab your left arm. So if the opponent wanted to win, he had to grab this kid's left arm. And remember, this kid does not have a left arm, right? So the boy's biggest weakness had become his biggest strength. This is the power of a guru. He converts our greatest weakness to our absolute greatest strength. Arjun is intelligent. He understands that this affection for family members, this, whole wish to protect them from death, all this was rubbish. He knew that his duty to fight was waiting for him. He knew he was being stupid. And so he did the right thing. He turns to Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, and requests him to become his guru. He says, Krishna, from now on, I am your disciple. I want to stop all these friendly talks. I want you to guide me. So Krishna is the original spiritual master of the Bhagavad Gita, and Arjun is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. Bhagavad Gita, please remember, is Krishna in Shabda Roop. The Bhagavad Gita does not take away our troubles, but it gives us strength to face our troubles, to understand why we have those troubles in our life. Whenever we have troubles in life, we should remember what Kunti, Draupadi, and the Pandavas have been through. Then we will realize that the problems in our life are insignificant. Granthra Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Thank you all for joining. See you next week.